I have a book recommendation list for you guys finally. This is for starting work with Infernals, with Asmodeus specifically, or even if you're just new to the craft in general. So let's get into it. And stay with me because this might be a little bit longer, but it's worth it because I explain each one. Okay, so before we go anywhere, I highly recommend this book. It's one of my favorites I've ever read. Not only does it go over protections, cleansing, it covers basically like psychic attacks and uncrossing and things of that nature in depth, which I don't think is talked about enough. By far one of my favorite books I've ever read, so check it out. This is another one that I shove into the hands of all of my students. This goes over all kinds of correspondences, all sorts of different plants, applications, oils, candles and shit are in here too, I think. Fantastic, fantastic book. Alright, so I know not a lot of people like Michael Ford. He can definitely be wordy, but I really, really like this book because it goes in depth for every single Infernal in the Goetia and kind of gives you a little bit more about them. And it's dry, but it's an easy read, and it's just a good place to start. Next is the complete book of Demonolatry by S. Connolly. The thing about Connolly is they're really, really good at talking about Infernals, but if they start talking about things outside of Infernals, it gets really, really dodgy. Sometimes they can definitely fuck up when talking about other cultures. So, great book. Fantastic for Infernals. Take the parts of it that resonate with you and just leave the rest. Same thing here, the Demonolators Guide to Demon Magic. Connolly as well. Just great book. Take what resonates, leave the rest. So if you're trying to work with Asmodeus specifically, this book is dirt cheap and it's amazing. It's called The Lore of Asmodee by Arundel Overman. Phenomenal. It's everything from A to Z for Asmodeus, his ancient Zoroastrian counterpart, Aesimadeva, like all of the Solomonic lore, everything is in here. Start here. And finally, a couple more advanced books, in my opinion. They're not the hardest books ever, but a little more advanced topics. I will butcher this. Stella's Daemonum, whatever. This book goes into all of the Infernals, associations across other pantheons around the world, and for you astrology girlies, it goes into all of their astrological associations, how they map in the stars. My favorite part is it goes into depth about the planetary associations for each aspect of Asmodeus, but that's just me and my line of work. But fantastic book, lots of theory. Definitely will make your brain hurt, but super worth it. I'm sure you've seen this before, but Of Blood and Bones is a fantastic book talking about everything from, working with animal remains, working on baneful magic, lots and lots of shadow work concepts in here. Just a fucking phenomenal book that kind of busts up some of the taboos that surround different aspects of the craft. So definitely give this a look. The Poison Path Herbal is basically like Blackthorns, but for baneful magic. Not only does this give all of the baneful herbs and their applications, but it also tells you how to make things like flying ointment, for example. Please be careful doing this, but this is a phenomenal book. Absolutely one of my favorites when it comes to like the Poison Path. And speaking of the Poison Path, Beneficium is a classic. It talks a lot about theory and older practices and how the herbs kind of factor in. Please don't skip this book. And finally, for the baneful people out there, Curses, Hexes, and Crossing by S. Connolly. Please don't touch this book until you do the other one that I started with about uncrossing and protection. As always with Connolly, a lot of this is really, really good. Their theory and the way they break down baneful magic and like how it impacts you, how it impacts other people is fucking amazing. There's definitely some out-of-the-box concepts in here as well, so I do love this book. It doesn't make baneful magic seem like fucking party time. Like, it talks about the real risks that come to you as well as other people. It's very down to earth. And not at all maximum edge. Anyways, I have a shit ton of other books that I could go over. Those are just my favorites. I have like 4 boxes full of books that I'm still unpacking after my move. So if you want a part 2 for some of like my favorite books I have in the library or things of that nature, I'm happy to do it. Otherwise, feel free to ask questions in the comments, and I hope this was helpful.